Picture this. You're standing in your kitchen. It's a rainy, indecisive April day, the kind where the damp just hangs heavy in the air and seeps right into your bones.
Oh, yeah, those miserable kind of gray spring days.
Exactly. So you're 63 years old. Your name is Miriam Vasquez, and you have just returned from the grocery store. You are holding a cantaloupe.
Just a completely mundane moment.
Completely mundane. You run your thumb over the rough, webbed skin of this fruit,
Oh, God.
and suddenly, completely out of nowhere, you feel a massive physical shift.
Like a memory, but
But it's not a memory playing like a distant movie in your head.
Right.
It is a startlingly visceral sensation. You feel the exact, undeniable warmth of another woman's hand resting on your shoulder.
right, because the past essentially reaches through time and physically grabs her in the present. It bypasses conscious thought entirely, and registers as pure somatic memory.
Yeah, and this touch didn't happen yesterday. It happened 49 years ago in 1974. Miriam and this other woman, Linda Murchison, were just two exhausted young mothers sitting in a pediatrician's waiting room. Miriam's daughter had croup. Linda's son had chickenpox.
A nightmare scenario for any parent.
Right. And Linda just reached over, put her hand on Miriam's shoulder for maybe 2 seconds, and said, "The waiting is worse than the sickness, isn't it?"
2 seconds.
That's it. That is the whole event. Yet, standing in her kitchen nearly half a century later, Miriam feels the exact geometry of that tenderness so powerfully that she actually drops the cantaloupe.
Which perfectly illustrates the core mission of our deep dive today. We are exploring a remarkable piece of source material called the Cartography of Tenderness.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating read.
It really is. And we're analyzing how that single microscopic trigger in a kitchen prompts Miriam to pull out an unused green watercolor notebook and, well, write the memory down.
Because it doesn't just stop with her.
Exactly. More importantly, we are going to look at the neurological and sociological domino effect of that one decision.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what starts as a woman writing down a 2-second memory of a waiting room actually reveals a massive blind spot in how human beings construct their own identities.
We really do.
Miriam realizes right at the beginning that she has been living her entire life as just like a series of facts.
And honestly, society trains us to do exactly that. I mean, when someone asks you to tell the story of your life, you default to the structural outline.
Right, you give them the resume.
Yeah, the resume. For Miriam, the facts were these chronological milestones. Moving to the town of Hinton, her husband, Douglas, getting a job at the mill eventually closing, and later, unfortunately, Douglas passing away.
The big events.
Those are the big visible beams of the house. But as she starts writing in this green notebook, she discovers a stark difference between the structure of a life and the actual substance of it.
I look at it like the difference between drywall and insulation.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Because we spend our whole lives obsessing over the drywall, the marriages, the career milestones, the geographic moves. We measure it, we paint it, we show it off to our neighbors.
And it all just stands there.
Exactly. It's entirely passive. We completely ignore the insulation hidden inside the walls.
Which is the very thing that actually functions to keep you from freezing to death.
Yes.
Insulation actively absorbs the harshness of the outside world. And when Miriam shifts her focus from the drywall of her life to the insulation, the memories that surface aren't loud, cinematic milestones. They are incredibly quiet, functional moments of care.
Take Arthur Chen, for example. He was a librarian back in the 80s.
I love this story.
It's so good. So Miriam was in the library parking lot, completely stressed out, trying to fix a loose alternator belt on her Honda Civic because she couldn't afford a mechanic.
She's just struggling out there.
Right, she's really struggling. And Arthur doesn't come out and offer some grand speech or try to mansplain or fix it for her. He just silently walks up, places 3 automotive repair manuals directly into her arms, and walks away.
Because he assesses the specific nature of her vulnerability and provides the exact tool to mitigate it. And he does it without requiring any social performance in return.
No forced small talk.
None. Then there's Dr. Okonkwo. So Miriam goes in for a medical exam because she's suffering from severe vertigo.
Which is awful.
Terribly disorienting. And after the exam, instead of shuffling her out to the reception desk so he can flip the room for the next patient, he simply lets her sit in his office for 20 minutes to wait out the dizziness.
He just lets her stay.
Yeah, he pulls out some files and pretends to do paperwork so she won't feel like a burden. He literally donates his time to her equilibrium.
But the entries about her late husband, Douglas, are what really anchor this whole concept for me.
Absolutely.
Because for years, Miriam harbored this quiet resentment. She was wishing Douglas was more romantic in the traditional, Hollywood sense.
Flowers, sweeping declarations, all that.
Yeah, the big gestures. But the catalog forces her to look at the data differently. Every single morning, Douglas would cut their daughter Bee's toast into little strips, he called them toast soldiers, and stand them at attention on the plate.
Even when she was older. Right?
Yeah. He kept doing it even when Bee was a moody teenager who rolled her eyes at it. And he did it for Miriam, too.
What's fascinating here is the evolution of how the brain categorizes love.
How so?
Well, by cataloging these moments, Miriam dismantles the cultural expectation of romance, which is, let's be honest, often performative. And she starts documenting the silent infrastructure of care.
The infrastructure.
Right. Douglas never gave breathless speeches about his devotion. Instead, every single night for 40 years, he walked through the house, checking every door lock and every window latch.
He wasn't just securing the perimeter, he was proving their safety. It's the physical manifestation of I love you. The drywall of her marriage was that they were legally wed for 4 decades. The insulation was 40 years of toast soldiers and locked doors holding the cold at bay.
But realizing this raises a functional problem. Recognizing the insulation of your own life is profound, but if it just stays in a green notebook on a nightstand, it's a closed system.
Right, if I'm just hoarding my own nice memories to make myself feel better about the past, isn't that inherently selfish?
It definitely could be.
So how does a private realization about a librarian in the 80s translate into something that actually shifts the behavior of an entire community?
Well, it transitions from a private diary to a communal movement through a concept the text calls expanding the perceptual field.
Expanding the perceptual field.
Yeah, and it starts really subtly. Miriam is at the library, standing in the biography section, and she runs into an acquaintance named Joan. Usually, this is where the social script dictates a hollow exchange, right? Like, I'm fine, how are you?
Right, the standard polite fiction.
Exactly. But instead, Miriam deviates from the script. She tells Joan about the catalog, and Joan's brain instantly accesses a dormant file.
Oh, right.
She recalls a nurse bringing her a heated blanket at 2 in the morning while she was sitting vigil as her mother died.
And that one interaction acts as a contagion.
It really does.
Suddenly, they're meeting for coffee, they're bringing in other people, and they form the Tenderness Project in the library community room. They are actively sharing these catalogs.
And this is where a therapist named Peter joins the group. He provides the psychological framework for what is actually happening to their brains. He identifies this practice of expanding the perceptual field as a direct countermeasure to the brain's natural trauma response.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there.
Sure.
Because when I first read Peter's theory, my immediate reaction was heavy skepticism. Let's call it what it sounds like. Toxic positivity.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Right. Are we seriously suggesting that people should just put on rose-colored glasses, ignore their very real suffering, and focus on good vibes? If someone's life is falling apart, telling them to write down a happy thought feels like dangerous denial.
And if the goal were to replace the bad with the good, you would be absolutely correct. That is denial. But Peter unpacks the neurology of trauma, which fundamentally changes the conversation here.
Okay, how so?
From an evolutionary biology standpoint, human brains are wired as Velcro for negative experiences.
And Teflon for positive ones.
Exactly. It's a survival mechanism. Trauma is incredibly loud. It demands complete neurological attention because the brain wants to ensure you survive the threat.
Which makes sense. If a tiger attacks you, you better remember every detail of that tiger, not the pretty flower you saw right before it bit you.
Exactly, the mechanism. But the side effect of that survival mechanism is tunnel vision. Trauma is so loud that it drowns out peripheral data to the point where a person's entire narrative becomes exclusively defined by their pain.
So it takes over the whole story.
Right. Cataloging tenderness does not erase the trauma. Miriam's husband is still dead. She still endured immense hardship. Expanding the perceptual field simply widens the lens to take in the entire room, not just the tiger. It rebalances the neurological ledger.
And you see the psychological relief of that rebalancing vividly with the other group members. Take Sarah, for instance.
Oh, Sarah's story is so tough.
It is. She is grinding through a brutal, contentious divorce. Her brain is telling her that her entire existence is defined by this massive failure. But the project forces her to look at the periphery.
And what does she find?
She remembers her best friend showing up on the exact day the divorce papers were signed, walking past her to the kitchen, and silently scrubbing every surface until it shined.
She just cleans.
Just cleans. Or consider Helen, an older woman consumed by the grief of losing her 46-year-old daughter, Claire.
Right, which is an unimaginable loss.
Helen's trauma is so monolithic that it has actively suppressed the beautiful memories. The catalog gives her psychological permission to bypass the grief for a moment and remember Claire bringing her tea in bed every single Mother's Day.
And a vital insight Peter provides is that acknowledging the tea does not invalidate the grief. The brain can actually hold both. The pain and the care existed simultaneously.
So what does this all mean? We see how this practice rescues the past from the tunnel vision of trauma. But memory is inherently backward-looking.
Yes.
If this is truly a fundamental shift in human perception, it can't just be about organizing history, it has to be applied forward.
Which pushes Miriam's project into its next phase, which is the concept of inheritance.
Right.
The focus moves from cataloging what was received to deliberately constructing what will be passed down, and this really crystallizes around Miriam's daughter, B.
So, B is getting married to her partner, Simone. They ask Miriam to do a reading at the wedding. Miriam, who's apparently terrified of public speaking, agrees. But instead of reading a standard poem, she brings the green notebook to the altar.
Which is such a bold move.
It really is. She reads the entry about Douglas's toast soldiers and his obsession with the door locks. But the crucial moment is when she reads a brand new entry she wrote specifically about B.
She provides a real-time observation of the couple's own emerging infrastructure.
Right, so Simone, B's partner, always gets cold feet at night. So B has developed this quiet habit of putting Simone's socks in the dryer right before bed, ensuring they are perfectly warm when she puts them on.
That's so incredibly sweet.
Miriam stands up in front of all these wedding guests and reads that fact out loud. She validates their specific architecture of care.
By making the invisible visible, she is effectively providing them with a functional roadmap for their marriage. She is showing them that they are already doing the work.
And Miriam takes this concept of deliberate inheritance even further. When B and Simone have a baby little, Rose Miriam doesn't wait to write things down. She starts a brand new catalog just for Rose on day one.
Day one.
To me, this proves that tenderness is not a genetic trait like eye color or height. It is a language.
A language.
And we only learn a language by hearing it spoken consistently. Miriam realizes she can't just casually speak it. She needs to meticulously compile a dictionary for her granddaughter so that Rose is completely fluent from birth.
She's giving her the vocabulary.
Exactly. She wants this child to grow up with a physical, irrefutable archive proving she has always been seen.
And a critical component of teaching that language is demonstrating that fluency does not equal perfection.
Oh, that's a great point.
The inheritance isn't a flawless execution of care, right? The inheritance is the relentless effort of trying. And the source material highlights this through a remarkably complex character, Simone's estranged mother, Margaret.
Margaret is fascinating because she is the antagonist for a while. She strongly disapproves of Simone's life choices and, she doesn't even bother to show up to the wedding.
Right, she represents a profound failure of care. But later, a therapist recommends Miriam's published book to Margaret. And reading about this meticulous cataloging really cracks Margaret's defenses open.
It breaks her down.
It does. She realizes the sheer volume of connection she has willingly forfeited, so she attempts to start her own catalog. She unearths a deeply buried memory of Simone at age 7, burning up with a terrifying fever.
I remember this part.
Margaret remembers sitting in a hard chair by that bed for 8 straight hours, doing absolutely nothing but continually swapping out a cold cloth on her daughter's forehead. And when the fever finally broke, little Simone looked at her and simply said, "You stayed."
You stayed. That strips everything else away. The fundamental requirement of love is simply not leaving.
And Margaret had entirely lost access to that version of herself. Recovering that memory gives her the scaffolding she needs to try and repair the estrangement. She starts initiating contact again.
And it's not perfect.
No, it is incredibly awkward, it is flawed, and there is immense baggage. But she shows up. The text argues that the transmission of attention, even when it's messy and imperfect, is infinitely more valuable than a clean, safe absence.
But tracing that transmission of attention brings up a massive complication.
Oh, absolutely.
We've dissected how Miriam catalogs the love she received and how Margaret learns to pass it forward. But what about the origin point? What about the people who actually generated the care in the first place? Do they even know the mechanism they set in motion?
This represents the final and perhaps most sociologically complex evolution of the Tenderness Project. Miriam and Joan begin taking their methodology out of the library and into a local care home, where they encounter a 93-year-old resident named Vera.
Vera completely steals the show. She is 93, sharp as a tack, and utterly devoid of sentimentality.
She really provides a case study in unclosed loops. Vera shares a story from 1961. She was a brand new secretary at a high-powered law firm, desperate to keep her job, and she made a catastrophic filing error that would have absolutely gotten her fired.
A total disaster.
Right. But before the partners found out, an older senior woman at the firm discovered the file, quietly fixed the error, and absorbed the blame herself, completely shielding Vera.
And the kicker is, they never discussed it.
Never a single word. Vera tells the group, I have thought about her my whole life. I never told her. She died in 1989, and I never told her.
Wow.
Hearing this prompts another group member, David, to distill the entire phenomenon into one crushing observation. He says, we always know. We don't always say.
That quote is the philosophical linchpin of the whole deep dive. It highlights the vast, silent gap between the act of generating tenderness and the giver ever knowing it successfully landed.
Yes.
Oh, okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Why should we say it? If I see someone struggling and I hold a heavy door open for them, and then I just stand there waiting, demanding a thank you, doesn't that completely corrupt the gesture?
It feels like it would.
If we mandate acknowledgement, don't we turn tenderness into an economic transaction? Like a social debt that has to be repaid?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the sociological distinction is crucial. Peter, the therapist, addresses this exact fear. He explains that saying it is not the repayment of a debt. True tenderness is entirely non-transactional. It is complete the moment it is offered.
Okay.
Acknowledging it is a completely separate, independent act of generosity. Telling someone, I saw what you did, is a gift offered back. It is the act of closing the loop.
Closing the loop. Not settling an account, but completing a circuit.
Exactly. We see the profound impact of this closed circuit with Ruth, another member of the community group. Her adult son, Ryan, calls her every single Wednesday evening at 7 p.m.
Like clockwork.
Right. Ruth knows he has a demanding job. She knows he's chronically exhausted, and she knows he is often running on fumes. But he never, ever misses the Wednesday call. However, she has never explicitly told him that she recognizes the sacrifice it takes.
Because she assumed he just knew.
Right. But after Vera's revelation, Ruth realizes an unsaid truth is an unclosed loop. She calls Ryan on a Tuesday outside of their routine schedule, specifically to tell him that his Wednesday phone calls are a cornerstone entry in her catalog.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She names the effort, she validates his exhaustion, she lets him know that the energy he is expending is not vanishing into the void, it is landing, and it is sustaining her.
Because human beings are wired to give differently when they know the gift actually matters. It prevents burnout. And this entire sociological investigation comes full circle in a deeply emotional demonstration of this exact principle at Miriam's book launch.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the closed circuit. So Miriam has published her catalog, and the movement has grown significantly.
She is doing a reading at the local library, and the room is absolutely packed. She looks up from her podium, scanning the audience, and in the second-to-last row, she spots an older woman leaning on a cane. It is Linda Murchison.
The woman from the waiting room in 1974, the original catalyst.
Miriam stops her planned reading entirely. She points to the back of the room and tells the hundreds of people gathered there about a 2-second touch on the shoulder that occurred 49 years ago.
Incredible.
She looks directly at Linda and publicly names her as the very first entry in the entire catalog. And Linda, who had absolutely zero conscious memory of ever making that gesture, is utterly undone. She weeps.
Because how could she know?
Right. Because in that moment, she realizes that a fleeting, almost unconscious instinct of empathy she had half a century ago didn't just evaporate, it mattered. It fundamentally altered the trajectory of another human being's life.
She walks into a library on a Tuesday and discovers she is the foundational reason an entire community of people is sitting in that room healing together.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the ultimate takeaway from the Cartography of Tenderness is not just a polite recommendation to keep a gratitude journal.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It is a radical demand to reframe your objective reality. Your life, the one you are living right this second, is almost certainly held together by a vast network of uncounted, unrecorded mercies. Significance is not an objective fact assigned by the universe. Significance is simply a function of your own attention.
The narrative of the hard life and the narrative of the kind life are describing the exact same life. You do not have to choose between honoring the very real trauma you have survived and honoring the quiet insulation of care that kept you warm. They both occupy the same space.
They really do.
You simply have to be courageous enough to expand your perceptual field and look at both. I would challenge you, listening to this right now, to audit your own unwritten catalog. If you had to document one microscopic moment of care you received this week, a held door, a patient listener, a perfectly timed text, what is it? Whose hand was on your shoulder?
And as you think about that, I want to leave you with a larger question about the direction we are heading. We live in a world where the most sophisticated, powerful algorithms ever created by human beings are working 24 hours a day to systematically catalog our anger, our trauma, and our outrage.
You really are.
They are building an inescapable digital ledger of everything that hurts us. If we do not actively build our own manual catalogs of tenderness to counter that machinery, if we don't aggressively document the toast soldiers and the held doors, do we eventually lose the capacity to even recognize care when it's standing right in front of us? Will the language of tenderness become extinct simply because we stopped writing it down?